I'm Jake Bruton, and today we're going to talk footings and foundation for this new home we have under construction in Columbia, Missouri. Let's do it now. Okay, so there are a lot of little details on this 700 square foot basement that are actually unique to this project, that are the first time that we've done it. And my plan originally was to pour these footings and then bring you back and talk about what we did. And then it rained yesterday, and I thought, this is a great little visual on some of the stuff that we have going on here. So let's just walk through what we have going on before we've even poured our foundation. So number one, this house is roughly 1,700 square feet on 3 floors. We're at or about street level. So once we have our foundation, our slab in here, we'll have a tuck under garage, we'll have poured in place basement walls, and then we'll have 2 frame floors above that. So we'll have to make sure that our garage that's here is separated from the rest of the building envelope, even though it's going to feel very much like it's part of the envelope. We'll have insulation, we'll have damp proofing or waterproofing, and then we have regular old run-of-the-mill construction for the same stuff that we do. Zip R, 2x6 walls, good windows, all quality all the way through. But all that starts here. It starts at this elevation, at this level. It starts with footings. Well, technically it starts with grade work, so we've cut the lot to the height that we want. In this instance, our grade is street minus 10, so that by the time we get everything stacked in here, we have about a 6 or 7 inch difference between here and the curb. That way our drive slopes away. We don't have to follow the regular regulations from the city because this is a basement garage. We don't have that plus 18 inch requirement that we normally would have in, say, a new neighborhood. Oh, I should also note that this is an infill neighborhood. The house that was here that we tore down was built in the 50s. There are older homes everywhere around us here, and so that'll play into that as we follow the construction of this home as well, because there's some historic neighborhood stuff that we have to do. So let's talk footings. This house is effectively 21 by 35. It's a rectangle. You can see that we have a U-shaped footing that's being placed on top of this, and then we have a trench footing right here behind me. Can't see it in the camera here, but it's right here. And the reason we have that trench footing is because the garage is going to pull in here, so this will actually be at grade, so we still need that frost protection along the front wall of the house. So this trench footing goes the width of the house and then in 5 feet. Well, from there, everything else will be backfilled, everything else will be far enough below grade that the footings you can see that have this fabric footing on them, those will be well below the frost line. So let's talk about the way that we traditionally would do this versus the way we're doing it today. So traditionally, we would have 2x10s formed on top of grade, staked, string line, everything. The goal of the footing is to be centered under the wall, and after the concrete is placed in those 2x10s, those 2x10s would basically just go to the trash or the burn pile. And there's 2 reasons for that. Number one, if the concrete guys are trying to move quickly, they'll put form oil on those. I know a lot of concrete crews won't put form oil on them. Our guys will. The last company that we worked with as well, they both used form oil so that they could strip those quickly. We don't want to reuse any board that has form oil in the rest of the house. We don't want it off-gassing. We don't want the potential for it to smell. We don't want greasy stuff inside of our house. It's caustic, it's toxic. It's not something that you should be reusing if it's got form oil on it. If it doesn't have form oil on it, it's still covered in concrete. So we have the time of cleaning those, or the concrete guy normally just takes them and he disposes of them, and which means he burns them at his house. He burns 2x10s with a little bit of concrete on them for bonfire, I'm guessing. Another way that I've seen this done actually is with 2x4s and pouring super low slump concrete. There's a lot of spillage there, and there's the possibility that that 2x4 then get kind of captured by the concrete, and maybe that works, maybe not. It's just not our market. That's not the way we do it here. And so that 2x10 that our guys normally use is kind of just wasted. It's kind of just gone. It's a sunk cost. we don't count on reusing those ever. Every once in a while we do. Here, however, we decided to use the Fastfoot fabric footing from Fab Forms. That was not supposed to be that alliterative, but it was. And it's a bag footing. It's a woven scrim that is actually waterproof or damp proofing. The idea is that you could use 2x4s to form, use the Fastfoot with it, and then you've spent a lot less money on lumber and a lot less labor, packing heavy boards around. And the only thing that then stays in your assembly is the Fastfoot. I think that's really interesting. I think that that's a really great idea that then those 2x4s could be reused. We have 2x6 walls upstairs, so we just decided let's just use 2x6s because they'll be a little stronger, and this is our first time using them. And then we can just move these 2x6s up. So you'll see in some spots our forms run long because we just left it as a 16 and then we'll cut it. I think that this is going to be a really interesting product, and I think that this might end up being part of our assembly moving forward, that this could be something that we use all the time. We'll see. I'll let you know after we pour. But I wanted to talk about the Fastfoot in the sense that we get to reuse everything. The only thing that stays is the Fastfoot. So the Fastfoot, layout wise, it has layout marks on it. We have a 24-inch wide footing, so you put the 24-inch marks at the bottom of the footing, and then you pull it up, and we need 10 inches tall, so there's 44, 24 plus 10 plus 10 gets us to 44. We stretch them to the 44 mark, we staple them with a slap stapler, and now our footings are there. They have a capillary break from the ground, from the soil, and then once it's poured, we're able to lap those up, bring our waterproofer down the wall and over and on top of that, and we've damp proofed. We've cut the capillary action that could happen in the footing that then feeds to the wall that then could potentially feed to the house. Next in this assembly, when we start talking about the ability to reuse things, we've cut 27-inch 2x4s to go across every single one of the footings. Those 2x4s that they go across, those are just to support that vertical 2x4. That vertical 2x4 then holds our Steelmate. The Steelmate and the Fab Form, I should tell you, a client brought to me, not even this client brought to me and said, hey, you should look at this. And then immediately, like the next day, I saw it on Pioneer Homes, Brian Euler's and Tim's, awesome framer, on their page. And I was like, okay, well, I know somebody that's used it. So that instantly gives me a little bit of credibility to look into something further. In this instance, I talked to Tim, and Tim was just like, yeah, this is easy. You won't need help with this or anything. So the Steelmates are reusable holders for our verts, for our vertical that ties our footing to our wall. In this instance, our verticals are steel rebar. They're pre-bent by a local yard. They cut them to length and bend them for us. They deliver them on a little pallet, and then all we have to do is rack them into place. However, the long bar, then the footing and in the walls will be this gator bar that you see behind me. There's a fiberglass rebar that is a direct replacement basically for steel. And in our market right now, that's $4 a stick cheaper. That's a decent savings. $4 adds up real quick when you're gonna have 300 pieces of bar in here. That's, another window, that's an upgraded water heater, that's upgraded countertops, just by switching to a different material that's easier to handle. It's lightweight. It's not hot out here in the 102 degree heat. That's why I'm filming so early in the morning today. It's like 7:30. Yeah, and it's going to be 102 today. So that bar won't be hot and we'll still be able to work with it. The reason that I alluded to this earlier, the reason that I chose to film today is basically just to show you the fact that the Fastfoot has water sitting in the bottom of it. It sprinkled yesterday afternoon. That material is a capillary break. If it won't let the water out of it, that means it won't let water into it. So that was a perfect trust but verify moment for me. I came by this morning specifically to film this video with the hope that there would be water sitting in them. And I thought, that's what better advertisement? Like my sciencey brain in that instance says, what better advertisement? So stay tuned. There's a lot more work here to get to even just being able to finish pour the concrete or finish pour the footings. I thought it would be nice to just do a little check-in, talk about how this thing's working, what we have going here, and what to expect from this little project. We'll figure out a hashtag and I'll add it next time I talk about this job. Till next time, don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter. There's 2 newsletters a week. There's so much new content. You're going to miss something if you're not subscribed to the newsletter. I'm really happy with the content that everybody else is putting out. I learn stuff from everybody else every day of the week. It's really great that they let us be involved as well, because we're trying to do the same thing. We're trying to educate others. So until next time, don't forget to follow me on the, Instagram. Don't forget to follow the Unbuild It podcast. That's a podcast that Steve Basic and Peter Yost and I do. Thanks for watching.